You're on your way to work, having just poured yourself a nice cup of coffee. You take a sip, and what was that? For a moment, it feels like you've been shot into the air like a rocket. But then you realize something much more terrifying. Gravity seems to have stopped working for a brief moment. Did the world just end? Not quite, but things are about to get a whole lot crazier. So long as we're not too far from the ground, it's not really possible to feel the effects of space on our body, which is good, because otherwise you might have been ripped apart at the seams. So here's what would happen if gravity stopped working for a day, permanently, or even just partially. First, let's address the elephant in the room. Even if gravity did stop working, we wouldn't all magically start floating away into outer space. That's because the Earth is still very much bound to its gravitational well, a region of space defined by the planet's mass and its gravitational pull. The Earth's gravitational well extends all the way out to infinity, but most of its effect is felt within 12,000 kilometers of the surface. Any object that strays too far from the planet will eventually be pulled back in by its gravitational pull. It'd take a mighty big object, like a comet or asteroid, to throw humanity off its gravitational well for good. And while such an object would cause other catastrophic problems, the fact that we'd all go flying out into space wouldn't be one of them. But what if gravity just took a little vacation? Say you're on a bridge and gravity suddenly drops to half as much as it was before. If that happened, you'd probably feel lighter on your feet, so to speak. If you were standing on a scale, you'd weigh half as much as you normally do, and after a few moments of readjusting, you might try to walk across the bridge. But soon you'd realize something was wrong. Because gravity has dropped, the Earth's surface is now 9.8 meters, or 31 feet lower than it was before. Since the bridge was once connected to this Earth, it too falls into the now deeper gravitational well, and you with it. Congratulations! You just became twice as heavy as you were before. And if you don't get off the bridge very fast, twice as crushed. This means that any structure close to the Earth's surface would be utterly crushed under their own weight when gravity increased. On the flip side, when gravity dropped, bridges, buildings, pyramids, and mountains would suddenly become a lot less massive. In theory, that should make them easier to move. So long as you could find a way to distribute the extra mass, you could in theory move large sections of rock and earth around much more. Just don't do anything too drastic like pushing a building over or moving a mountain range. While gravity is reduced, the Earth is still very much held together by its own internal forces, and you messing around with its crust could cause some serious problems like earthquakes or volcanic eruptions. But what if gravity just stopped working entirely for a day? First, you'd probably notice the sky looked a little strange. That's because without gravity, the Earth's atmosphere would collapse in on itself. Air, after all, is mostly made up of nitrogen and oxygen molecules that have been held in the Earth as gravitational wells since the planet formed. Without gravity, these molecules would just float away into outer space, meaning that if you were outside, you'd be met with the horrifying sight of your favorite blue sky turned into a horrifying black void. But even worse than that, you'd quickly run out of air to breathe. Without gravity, humans would only have about 15 seconds worth of oxygen left in the atmosphere. Luckily, it seems that this scenario is impossible. Gravity can't just turn off like a light switch. That's because the gravitational force between objects depends on their masses and the distance between them. The Earth's gravity comes from the protons and neutrons in its core, and while scientists can't directly observe these particles, they can observe how gravity changes when the Earth's shape changes. So, if gravity could somehow turn off, we'd likely notice a change in the planet's mass, which would affect gravity by either increasing or decreasing it. But, as far as we know, this can't happen. The Earth isn't likely to just magically lose a bunch of mass or become denser. That means that if gravity stopped working, it would have to stop working permanently. So maybe it's a good thing that you never finished that coffee.